So here we are talking about various stories around the NHL regarding centers. And because I'm a Canadiens and a Canucks fan, it gives us the opportunity to dive into what my teams are doing as well as the Canadian Olympic team. I guess that kind of ties it all together, right? Let's dive into the first piece of news. Earlier this morning, it was announced that the Montreal Canadiens have placed forward Sammy Blais on waivers. Renaud Lavoie gave us the scoop here. If a team wants to send a player down via waivers, they had to do it today because of tomorrow's trade freeze at 3 p.m. After the freeze, teams are not allowed to go on any sort of transaction like sending a player down. So, turns out that the roster freeze is not just a trade freeze, it's also a waiver freeze. So if you are on the NHL roster past 3 p.m. tomorrow, you're on the NHL roster till at the very least February 22nd. So I guess the Montreal Canadiens wanted to give Sammy Blais a little bit more of an opportunity. There were some other guys that were given waiver status today too, Ryan McAllister, Philip Larson. But really, Sammy Blais is the big one. And furthermore to that point, Renaud Lavoie actually did go out there and explain why the situation went down. He was placed on waivers today to give him a chance to play during the break if not claimed. He hasn't played since January 15th. This decision is not related to a coming trade or a player being activated. That's my comprehension of today's decision. So, good guy Kent Hughes, I guess, right? Giving Sammy Blais the ability to play sometime during the break in the AHL or with another NHL team, although, to be honest, no, he is not going to play with an NHL team during the break because the NHL doesn't play during the break, That's why it's called the break. Anyways, what I'm also interested in is the payment as well. Okay, that's exactly what I was looking for. So Sammy Blais is on a one-way contract, meaning that he'll get paid the same amount of money whether he is in the NHL or the AHL. I was going out there thinking, okay, well, if he's spent so much time in the National Hockey League without actually playing, that's actually good, right? Because he'd be getting more money than if he was in the AHL. Nope, turns out I was wrong. He's getting the same amount of money either in the NHL or the A because his contract is one way. But Sammy Blais, 29 years old, 6'2", 205, winger, left-handed guy, and he's a player who this season scored himself 5 points in 13 Montreal Canadiens games. Not to mention 3 points in 8 Maple Leafs games, and then 9 points in 9 games with Laval when he was there earlier this season. So Sammy Blais obviously has some decent offensive potential. We really saw that last year when he was a member of the Abbotsford Canucks and their playoff run. 19 points in 23 games in the postseason as a do-it-all grinder kind of guy. 40 points in 51 regular season games too. Honestly, quite a shame that Sammy Blais did not get a bigger look with the Vancouver Canucks last season, but hey, he was in Abbey, he was able to mentor a lot of these young dudes, and now a lot of the players that were under Blais' leadership are NHL players, the Linus Karlssons, the Max Hassons, the Arshdeep Bains, etc. So, all's this to say is that Sammy Blais is a good pro. And Montreal is being kind to him, giving him an opportunity to get some hockey played over the next few weeks as the Olympics comes and goes because hey, he hasn't really been all too utilized lately. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, depth is particularly good, especially for a team like Montreal that has been rotating a lot of forwards throughout the course of the season. But Sammy Blais, the guy, he probably deserves a little bit more, right? So this is totally fine. I'd think that sending him on waivers is a pretty cool move. Now, speaking about forwards that are not present in the lineup, I wanted to head over to what Thomas Drance ended up saying earlier this afternoon. It's a quote from Adam Foote. Filip Chytil is unlikely to return to the Canucks lineup for their final game before the Olympic break. He's dealing with migraines, according to head coach Adam Foote. Now, we didn't even talk about this in yesterday's post-game video for the Vancouver Canucks and the Utah Mammoth, but Filip Chytil in this hockey contest only played himself 7 minutes and 36 seconds. He wasn't on the ice to start the third. He did not return to the rest of the game. And a lot of Canucks fans, myself included, were just kind of shocked, like, okay, wait, what happened this time? It wasn't like there was a big hit or a moment where the broadcasters were like, oh, look at this, Filip Chytil got hurt on this play at this time. That didn't really happen yesterday. It was just like, oh, he's not here. And then at the end of the game, it's like, oh, well, he didn't play a lot. He had 7 minutes. And I'm pretty sure the Canucks announced that he would not return. So Filip Chytil, I mean, it was a very, very short-lived stint to close out this part of the year. He returns January 23rd. He plays games against the Devils, the Penguins, the Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, the Maple Leafs, and then the Mammoth. But in the Mammoth game, he's a -3, and he's got 7 minutes of time on ice before actually leaving the game in its entirety. Now Adam Foote's saying that Filip Chytil is dealing with migraines. And for a guy who had gone through so much in regards to his head health, concussion-based health, with all the injuries he had sustained in New York and then in Vancouver at the hands of various people, Tom Wilson, name your poison, right? This is a guy who, at this point of his NHL career, I don't even know if it's fair to say that he should continue having an NHL career. Is that going to hinder the quality of Filip Chytil's life long term? Hockey does not last forever, but we understand that sometimes life steps in first before hockey can have its full path. Filip Chytil, man, I hope at the very least he reconsiders whatever decisions he could make in regards to continuing his NHL career, because at this point, I don't know if it's healthy for him to continue playing hockey. Thatcher Demko was shut down for the rest of the year. Should the same thing happen to Filip Chytil? The guy's contract goes on till next year, $4.43 million a year. He's a pretty good player. He's fast, he plays with skill, but he plays in a way that has not served him well because it puts him in danger. And now I'm thinking about it like, wow, that JT Miller trade really didn't benefit many when you think about it on the surface. I mean, the Rangers are kind of getting squeezed dry by Miller's blatant shortcomings as a leader. Meanwhile, Vancouver, they got Marcus Pettersson, who sucks with that first-round pick, and then they also got Filip Chytil, who I don't know if we can really see a long-term NHL career out of. This is a very unfortunate situation, and I'm just really feeling bad for the guy at this point. Part of me wonders, like, oh, did he come back as soon as he did because there was an element of him that was getting all upset that he wasn't called for Team Czechia at the Olympics? Like, was that stint returning some sort of a last-ditch effort to get himself noticed? I mean, just checking it out right here, David Kampf, for example, he's going over to the Olympics for Team Czechia. He was selected. He's part of the team. Team Czechia chose David Kampf over Filip Chytil, but it's not like, oh, we think that Kampf is more valuable or that he's more skilled or whatever. I think Filip Chytil is a more skilled NHL player, but the problem is Chytil's never available, and that in itself is an issue. Speaking about the Olympics, let's segue this into the last piece of news I wanted to talk about today. Hockey Canada. They tweeted out that Sam Bennett has been added to the men's Olympic roster, replacing Anthony Cirelli. This, of course, is something that I think a lot of folks were expecting. Cirelli, penalty-killing guy, defensively minded center who can score some points. He probably did make the Olympic team because, John Cooper is the head coach there, but still, Cirelli is a very good player. Sam Bennett, pretty good as well, and honestly, somebody that I think should have been included just by the nature of what he had done last year at the Four Nations. I mean, yeah, okay, 1 goal in 3 games, but this was a guy who made such a big impact at that tournament. He made such a big impact for Florida. He won the Conn Smythe. He was a point-scoring machine, that Sam Bennett, as a physical, point-producing center. And so Bennett's exclusion from the team initially was already seen as a pretty big issue. Now everything's corrected. Not that Chiarelli didn't deserve to make it. I think he's fine as an addition to that team for the specific role that they have. But Sam Bennett, I think a lot of people were a lot more expecting of him to make the team from the get-go. So Sam Bennett will be going over to the Olympics. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about all these roster moves and forward news? Sammy Blais, waivers, we'll see what happens to him later on. Filip Chytil, migraines. Is this the end of him in his NHL career? And then Sam Bennett, big congrats over to him. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.